Namaste everyone, this is Dr. Sumit, and on the behalf of MediStudy Go, I welcome you all to our series of oral surgery lectures. The topic that we have in our hands today is epistaxis or nasal bleeds. So now as you can see on the screen, this is the picture of an epistaxis or a nosebleed. So why are they notorious? They are notorious because they won't stop bleeding. And why won't they stop bleeding? There is a very logical anatomical reason for that. The anatomical reason is, if you talk about the anterior aspect of the nose, this little area that I'm marking over here, this is actually called a Little's area. And this Little's area is supplied by 5 of the most robust arteries of the head and neck area. That is anterior ethmoidal artery, posterior ethmoidal artery, greater palatine artery, sphenopalatine artery, and the superior labial branch of the facial artery. Any tampering with this area is going to lead to bleeding. Any mucosal damage, that is going to lead to bleeding, which unless you get a professional help, you're not going to stop about. Okay. Now, if that was not enough, there is a second area posteriorly in the nose which will lead to torrential bleeding, which is the cause of 20% of all the posterior nasal bleeds, and that area is called the Woodruff's plexus. Again, Woodruff's plexus is supplied by 3 of the most robust arteries of the head and neck area, that is the sphenopalatine artery, ascending pharyngeal artery, and the internal maxillary artery. So now do you see, this is exactly why these nasal bleeds are very, very notorious. But how do you exactly want to deal with them? So if you happen to have a nasal bleed and as a doctor you want to stop them, the first technique over here is the Trotter's approach. But before we go to that, would you like to see the reasons for nosebleed? Yes, of course. The commonest reasons for epistaxis are given right over here. Nose picking, that is digital trauma. Digits are your fingers. So if any trauma happens to the internal nasal mucosa because of a digit, that's called a digital trauma. Septal deviation, environmental, that is low air, low humidity. In that case, there are crustaceans inside the nose, and when you try to pick them, they will bleed, and that is why the Little's area is going to bleed. Allergic rhinitis, septal perforation, and iatrogenics. Local causes can be sinusitis and neoplastic, that is JNA, which is a juvenile nasopharyngeal angiofibroma. Again, as the name suggests, it bleeds. It definitely bleeds a lot. And systemic causes are coagulopathies, cardiovascular reasons, Osler-Rendu syndrome, systemic diseases like sarcoidosis, systematic lupus erythematosus, vitamin K and vitamin C deficiencies, which lead to a deficiency of collagenegenesis and chronic renal failure. So these are the commonest causes for epistaxis. But if as a doctor you face them, how would you like to treat them? Please have a look. So after having my due consultation with my ENT surgery friends, they told me that the first thing that they prefer doing is called a Trotter's method. So Trotter's method is commonly used for anterior nasal bleeds. What do you exactly do? So look at this. If this is the area where there is a bleed in the Little's area, that is the Kiesselbach plexus, the first step is anteriorly positioning the patient, which leads to decrease in the posterior or the pharyngeal flow of the blood. Second, they apply pressure on the Little's area or the Kiesselbach plexus, and third, they maintain this pressure for 10 to 15 minutes, and in most of the cases, that is at least 70 to 80% of the cases, that should stop your bleeding from the Kiesselbach's plexus. But if that does not stop, if there is a persistent posterior nasal drip, what do? You go for something which is called as a posterior nasal packing. How do you do that? So this thing that you see over here, this is called a ribbon gauze. Okay, a ribbon gauze is placed inside, deep inside the nasopharyngeal area, and that area is completely packed, as you can see over here. Now this gauze piece will absorb the blood. This gauze piece will stop the blood from going back inside the pharyngeal area, and that is most likely that will obviously create a pressure situation where the clot will not allow the further bleeding to happen. That is how pressure and pack works in a surgery. And if that does not work out, of course, this little one over here, this is called a double barrel catheter. Okay, so this double barrel catheter, it actually contains 2 barrels over here, which can be inflated with 8 to 10 cc of air. So they are inserted in the nasal cavity, just like what you see over here. Okay, and then they are inflated. Okay, These double barrel catheters are inserted, and back in the posterior pharyngeal area, nasopharyngeal area, they are inflated, and that will stop the blood flow back into the pharynx, and that will stop any chances of aspiration. What you see over here is a Foley's catheter. A Foley's catheter is used inside your ureter where you want to drain urine for a patient in a surgical scenario. So this Foley's catheter also contains this little bulb over here which can be inflated with saline. So this bulb, when inflated, it will stop any bleeding from this area going into the pharyngeal area. That is how you stop a posterior nasal bleed. And finally, to the part where everything I told has been summarized so beautifully by MediStudy Go. Please have a look. Initial management, you can put on topical vasoconstrictors, that is adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, to reduce the bleeding. Nasal packing with materials such as cellulose, methyl cellulose, Abgel, Surgicel, balloon catheters, Vaseline gauze, and the duration, either in children it has to be 3 days and 5 days in older children. In adults, it's usually considered to be 48 hours, after which the nasal dressing has to be changed, otherwise it can lead to a septic shock syndrome. Alright, and antibiotics just to provide septic shock syndrome, as I said. Now, an overview over here. If there is a traumatic disruption, the nasal skeleton has to be treated internally, whether or not it's an open reduction or whether or not it's a closed reduction. But if there is a bleed from the septum, if there is a bleed from the bone, it has to be dealt with, and the nose has to be packed with. The blood supply, of course, it's right over here. It's summarized completely. Anterior and posterior ethmoidal artery, sphenopalatine, nasopalatine, angular artery, and the superior labial artery, and the advanced intervention techniques. So a double balloon catheter is most prudent. Of course, you can use the Foley's catheter, you can use the Ryle's tube, and at the same time, a ribbon gauze would also do wonders in case of an epistaxis. And that is how, my friends, you manage a nosebleed. On that note, I'm going to see you guys very soon with an associated topic, which is CSF rhinorrhea. So on that note, I'm signing off. Thank you very much. Like us, follow us, subscribe us for more of these contents. Thank you.